Hello everyone, today we will dive into a topic that hits a little too close to home for a lot of us, being endlessly busy but somehow going absolutely nowhere. So before you and I watch the video, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you really like what I do here. Now, you know that feeling, right? When your day is absolutely jam-packed, emails flying in, group chats pinging every second, your face is practically glued to your screen, and yet, when the clock hits 6 p.m., you kind of just sit there, blinking, like, what exactly did I accomplish today? Yeah. Welcome to the chaos. You're not alone. I once met a guy who proudly told me he had made 40 different to-do lists in one day. No joke. 40. By the end, he'd forgotten where he put most of them. And he looked so proud, too, like he'd discovered fire. Honestly, I was impressed, until I realized he didn't actually do anything on any of those lists. That's where we begin this story. Because no, it's not that we're not working hard. If anything, we're working too hard. It's that our effort is scattershot. Like trying to dig a well using 10 different teaspoons across 10 different fields. You're sweating, yes, but you're still thirsty. And if you're being honest with yourself, like really honest, you already know this. There's a tiny voice inside you whispering, this isn't it. You're clicking and typing and moving so fast, but deep down, you feel stalled. Like you're stuck in the world's most intense treadmill marathon, where the only prize is a slowly eroding sense of purpose. Let's break it down. Every morning, your brain wakes up to a firing squad of demands. Texts. Emails. Meetings. Kids. Dog. That weird buzzing noise in your car you've been ignoring for 3 weeks. So what do? You leap into motion, grabbing at anything that looks urgent. You scramble, you fix, you respond, you put out fires. Boom. Look at you, busy, heroic, essential. You're the star of your own disaster management movie. But when the dust settles, you look around and realize the goal you had for the day. Nowhere in sight. Because strategy. She didn't even get an invite to the party. You were too busy reacting to do anything that actually matters. One time, I watched a friend spend an entire week redesigning his team's presentation template. Color-coded, fonts optimized, the works. The problem? There was no actual content yet. He'd polished the glass before pouring the water. It looked nice, sure, but it was completely empty. And maybe that's you, too. You're doing all the things except the one thing that moves the needle. This isn't laziness. This isn't incompetence. It's actually the exact opposite, you're trying so hard. You care so much. You just don't have a map. Imagine going on a road trip with 5 different GPS systems all yelling at you at once. Turn left. Recalculating. Merge now. U-turn. And somehow you end up in a McDonald's parking lot eating cold fries at midnight wondering what your life has become. That's what modern work feels like, loud, chaotic, and directionless. I promised, I once met a woman who printed every single email she received, yes, printed, and filed them into binders categorized by urgency level. She had a literal shelf titled, Medium Priority Q3. It was beautiful. It was horrifying. And it was absolutely useless, because she never had time to actually reply to any of them. We've glorified the appearance of work. The motion. The noise. The busyness. But not the actual result. And when you live like this long enough, your brain starts to associate motion with meaning. You feel anxious when you slow down, like you're falling behind. So you keep pushing, even when the engine is overheating and the tires are about to fall off. The more random actions you take, the less confident you become. Because deep down, you know it's all just reaction. Panic. Whack-a-mole productivity. So what do? You work even harder. Double the caffeine. Triple the browser tabs. Add another checklist. And now you're really getting nowhere, just faster. That's why we're starting here. At this moment. In this chaotic, overstimulated, buzzing state of modern life. Because you need to understand the first brutal truth: being busy is not the same as being strategic. One is motion. The other is direction. You're not lazy. You're just lost in a very loud forest, chopping down trees in 10 directions hoping one of them leads to sunlight. So what would happen if you just stopped? Not forever. Just for long enough to ask. Where am I actually going? What's the goal? What's the strategy? And don't worry, we're going to figure it out together. But first, we need to untangle the myth you've probably believed your whole life, that hard work is the answer to everything. Because here's your hook for next time: what if all that effort you're putting in is actually keeping you from the life you want? Yup. Let that one simmer. And don't forget, this journey we're on. It's not about hustle. It's about clarity. And also, learning to laugh when things go wildly off course. Like that one time I tried to make a productivity journal and accidentally created a nap tracker. But we'll get to that later. For now, breathe. You're not broken. You're just stuck in a system that rewards busy over brilliant. Let's change that. So, remember how we ended last time? You, sweaty from metaphorically chopping down trees with no idea where you're going, and probably missing lunch again. Yeah, welcome back. This time, we're going to talk about the biggest illusion most of us live inside, the productivity hamster wheel. You know the one. You wake up, you check your phone. Boom, 8 notifications, a weather alert, your calendar yelling, meeting in 30, and a friend tagging you in a meme that makes fun of the fact that you're always online, because you are. You jump out of bed, if you're lucky, start replying to emails mid-toothbrush, and by 9 a.m., you've already answered 3 Slacks, a WhatsApp message, and Googled, is burnout a medical condition? And it's only Monday. But here's the real kicker: by the time Friday rolls around, you've done everything and nothing. You were constantly moving, never still. You stayed late at work, skipped workouts, missed phone calls from your mom, and yet your biggest goals are still untouched. Somehow, everything urgent drowned out everything important. Again. So here's the truth bomb for today: you're not lazy, you're just stuck in a well-designed trap. That's right. The system we've built, the modern workplace, our calendars, our notifications, they're all perfectly engineered to keep you busy, not necessarily effective. And let's talk about one of my favorite metaphors: the coffee shop chair guy. I used to go to this cozy little spot where the barista, let's call him Greg, would spend hours every morning rearranging the furniture. Like, intensely. Chairs in a circle. Then in rows. Then one awkward line that made the whole room look like a DMV. He was sweating, focused, determined. The only problem? No one was ordering drinks. The customers were confused. The espresso machine was broken. But Greg? Greg was rearranging his 10th chair like it was the Nobel Prize of Furniture Feng Shui. It was, honestly, kind of inspiring. And deeply sad. Because Greg was working hard. But he wasn't fixing the right problem. And that, dear viewer, is the hamster wheel. You're doing. You're fixing. You're moving. But are you moving forward? Or just, in circles? Let's pause here for the confusing moment of the day. I once met someone who printed every single email they received. I mentioned this last time, but what I didn't tell you was, this person also hole-punched them, sorted them by sender, and color-coded them. They had an entire bookshelf organized by coworker. I asked them how often they reread those printed emails. Their answer: never. But it makes me feel like I'm on top of things. And honestly, that's how most people approach productivity. It's less about actual results, and more about feeling in control. And hey, I get it. You want that little dopamine rush from checking something off the list, even if that thing is, check my checklist. Yes, I've done that. Judge me if you must. But here's the real cost: every time you stay in motion without direction, you reinforce the idea that doing more equals being more. And that's exhausting. You know what else is exhausting? Multitasking your way through the day like some over-caffeinated octopus. One tentacle answering emails, another planning your kid's birthday party, another tab open for AI tools that promise to optimize your life, which just gives you more things to do. But the real problem is deeper than octopus limbs. It's this: we've been taught that constant action is valuable. Rest is laziness. Pausing to think is wasting time. Which is why some people treat thinking strategically like a luxury, something they'll get to once things calm down. What if most of the tasks you're doing every day are just really fancy distractions from the real work? Not because you're weak, but because the real work, it's scarier. It involves decision-making. Saying no, prioritizing. Letting go of things. And sometimes even, disappointing people. You know how your brain lights up when someone says, "Can you help me with this real quick?" Of course you want to be useful. Of course you say yes. It's a 10-minute task, what's the harm? But 10 minutes becomes 20. Then there's context switching. Then they ask for a revision. And suddenly, your own priorities are sitting in the back seat, quietly watching your day disappear through the windshield. You've been hijacked. Politely. Let's be honest, most of us don't want to think about strategy, because it requires us to confront some uncomfortable truths. Like maybe the thing we've been spending the most time on isn't working. Or the path we've chosen needs a massive course correction. Or that one project we secretly hate. It needs to die. Like, immediately. But we keep going. Spinning. Clicking. Calling. Justifying. Why? Because it's easier to be busy than to be honest. And here's a fun story to round this part off. I once spent 3 hours organizing my desktop files into labeled folders. It felt great. I created icons. I made subfolders for each client. Even changed the color tags. I stood back, virtually speaking, and admired my work. The next day, I couldn't find the actual file I needed. I had to use Spotlight search anyway. Sometimes the illusion of order is more comforting than actual clarity. And that's why strategy feels so rare. It forces you to pause. To decide. And decisions? They're risky. You could be wrong. But you know what's worse than being wrong? Being busy for 10 years in the wrong direction. So here's what I want you to do today. Not 10 tasks. Not a planner. Just this. Take 5 minutes. Sit somewhere quiet. And ask yourself one question. What am I doing right now that I could stop doing, with no real consequence? That question might save your sanity. It might shave off a few hours of pointless motion this week. It might even lead to a nap. And we love naps here. Oh, and remember Greg with the chairs? Last I checked, he finally fixed the espresso machine. Business went up 300%. And guess what? He stopped moving the furniture every morning. Sometimes strategy isn't sexy. It's just clear. And next time, we're going to talk about something that really hurts, why your to-do list is probably lying to you, and how to stop measuring your life in what if your never-ending to-do list is the reason you're stuck, and not the thing that will save you. Breathe. You're doing great. Just maybe, stop rearranging the chairs for a bit, okay? So here we are again. You've probably looked at your to-do list at least 5 times today. Maybe even rewritten it twice, added a few tasks like make to-do list, just so you could feel that delicious, fleeting satisfaction of checking something off. I see you. I am you. But here's a question that's going to sting a little. What if your to-do list isn't helping you? What if it's actually the reason you're stuck? Yeah. Let that one sit with your morning coffee. Let's get into it. You've been trained, maybe since high school, maybe since the day you got your first planner with adorable stickers, that the more tasks you finish, the better you're doing. So you start every day staring at that list like it's the roadmap to success. And to some degree, it feels like it is. You check something off, boom. Dopamine. Progress. Confidence. You're a machine. Except, no. You're a human. And sometimes your list is a liar. See, a to-do list doesn't care if a task is meaningful. It doesn't care if it gets you closer to your goals. It just sits there, blank-faced, telling you that, buy new stapler, is equal in importance to send client proposal or finish online course that could actually get you a raise. One gets done because it's easy. The other gets delayed because it's intimidating. We prioritize what feels urgent. Not what's important. I had a friend, I won't name names, but let's just say he wore socks with hot dogs on them, that's not the odd part yet, who once color-coded his to-do list by emotional resistance. Red for terrifying. Orange for meh. Green for easy win. Guess what got done first? All the green ones. All of them. He had the cleanest inbox in the Northern Hemisphere and still hadn't launched his business 6 months later. This is what happens when your list becomes a comfort blanket. You keep adding items, doing the small things, feeling like a boss, but inside, you know. You're just delaying the real stuff. Let's talk about one of the most common events I see, the planner overlord. You know this person, or maybe you are this person. You've got the leather-bound planner. You've got highlighters. You have sticky tabs in 6 colors. You spend 30 minutes each Sunday crafting your perfect week. Monday hits and boom, you're off. By Thursday, that planner is closed. It's under your laptop. You're winging it again. Why? Because plans made without strategy collapse under the weight of real life. Here's the weird detail of the day, I met someone who scheduled their bathroom breaks. In ink. Not as a joke. I asked them why, and they said, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen. You know what else didn't happen? Joy. Their soul had left the building somewhere around 2019. And here's the real truth, my friend, you are not your to-do list. You are not defined by how many boxes you check. You are not failing because the list never ends. Newsflash, it's not supposed to end. Life doesn't stop needing things. Laundry is forever. Emails multiply faster than rabbits on caffeine. If you define your worth by finishing, you'll always feel like you're behind. Let me tell you a little story. There was a week where I got everything done. Every box. Every task. Even the weird ones like defrost freezer and return those socks that make your ankles itchy. I was so proud of myself. I walked into the weekend like a productivity god. And yet, I felt hollow. Because I hadn't touched the one thing I said I truly cared about, finishing my creative project. It just kept getting nudged down the list. Tomorrow, I told myself. After these other things. And then the week was gone. That's when it hit me, a full to-do list can be the most beautiful distraction in the world. It keeps you looking productive while avoiding anything that actually changes your life. So let's reframe. What if your to-do list didn't have 20 things on it? What if it only had 3, and those 3 were things that truly mattered? Not urgent, not easy. Just essential. There's a reason you keep reading about prioritizing. Everyone says it. But no one tells you how terrifying it actually is to put something down and say, nope. Not doing that anymore. It feels like failure. It feels like you're letting people down. But here's a thought, what if every no is actually a gift to your future self? I once met a guy, odd detail coming, who had 3 planners. One for work. One for personal goals. And one, just for snacks. He'd write down what snacks he wanted to eat that week, how many, what aisle they were in at the grocery store. I asked him, why the snack planner? He said, it's the only one I actually finish. Okay, I laughed. But it made me think, we crave completion, even when what we're completing doesn't move the needle. So here's your challenge for this week. Look at your to-do list. Pick one thing. Not 10. Just one. Now ask. If I only do this today, will it make everything else easier or irrelevant? If yes, that's the task. If no, trash it. Or delegate it. Or, pretend it never existed. You're not failing because your list is unfinished. You're failing when your list is full of things that don't matter. And hey, sometimes it's okay to do nothing. Strategic nothing. Like choosing not to answer that group chat or skipping that status meeting that accomplishes literally 0 status. You know the one. Let's wrap this one with a little hook for next time. We're heading into the jungle of meetings, where everyone's busy, no one's clear, and mute buttons are your only hope for sanity. So grab your coffee, take a breath, and remember. You're not a checklist. You're a strategist in disguise. And you're doing better than you think. Meetings. The word itself has a scent. It smells like stale coffee, distant dread, and someone breathing too loud into a microphone. If you've ever ended a meeting thinking, that could have been an email, congratulations, you're human. And welcome to the next chapter of our chaos diary. Let's set the scene. You start the day determined. You've got 1, maybe 2 key things you really need to get done. Then the pop-up appears, Teams sync in 15 minutes. Ah yes, the sync. Code 4, no one knows why we're here, but we all showed up because it's recurring. You hop on the call. Steve's mic is too loud. Karen's camera is off and she's definitely doing dishes. The host fumbles with the screen share like it's their first time using technology. 20 minutes in, someone says, let's circle back on this. No one knows what this is. You blink. 55 minutes are gone. You leave the meeting with exactly 0 more clarity than you had before, but now your soul is slightly bruised. That's the modern workplace. Let me introduce you to one of the most common events I see, the back-to-back Zoom warrior. This person spends 6 to 8 hours a day in meetings. No joke. They have a literal spreadsheet to track their overlapping calls. They've learned to nod politely while typing something completely unrelated. They've trained themselves to say, great point, at strategic intervals. But ask them what any of the meetings were for. Blank stare. Maybe a nervous laugh. They're in meeting quicksand. The more they attend, the deeper they sink. And here's the confusing part. You knew this was coming. I met someone, let's call him Ted, who duct taped his computer's mute button down because his cat screamed every time he was on a Zoom. Like, full opera cat mode. The meetings weren't important, he said, but it's bad optics to leave. Bad optics. Let that sit. You know what's worse optics? Never having time to do actual work because you've been dragged into 43 different 45-minute updates where everyone's just saying, let's touch base again next week. Let me offer you a painful truth. Meetings have become the adult version of group projects where 2 people talk, 1 person scrolls Instagram, and 1 person does all the work later anyway. But here's the deeper problem, meetings give the illusion of progress. You're sitting. You're discussing. There are slides. But often, there's no decision. No owner. No deadline. It's like a treadmill made of buzzwords. I've been in meetings to plan other meetings. I've seen meetings where people brainstormed how to improve meeting structure. I've had meetings that start late, end early, and somehow still feel like they lasted forever. So what does this mean for you? It means you're probably wasting more energy on appearing involved than actually making an impact. And that's not your fault, it's the culture. We've been trained to think that being in the room means you're contributing. But contribution requires clarity. It requires intention. And it often requires saying no. Saying no to meetings feels dangerous. Like you're saying, I don't care, or I'm not a team player. But actually, saying no is one of the most strategic moves you can make. Especially when the meeting has no agenda. Has no decisions being made. Includes 15 people when 3 would suffice. Ends with, let's just keep doing what we're doing. You're not helping by being there. You're just absorbing time like a human sponge. Now let's rewind to a moment that changed how I viewed meetings forever. I had a boss once who canceled every meeting on the calendar for a week. Radical move. Everyone panicked for 5 minutes. And then, productivity skyrocketed. Deadlines were hit. People communicated more efficiently. Questions were answered via Slack in 90 seconds instead of 45 minutes of brainstorming. Turns out, when you remove the chairs, people actually move. That's the difference between motion and action. Meetings often provide the former, not the latter. Let me give you your odd detail of the day. I once worked with someone who would always be on time for meetings, from their bathtub. No camera, obviously. Just audio. I only found out because once, they forgot to mute and dropped their loofah. I'm still emotionally processing it. Now, you may not be in the tub during your calls, but I guarantee you've had the camera off and checked your bank account mid-meeting. Or read the news. Or literally fallen asleep for a few seconds with your eyes open. It's okay. I've done it too. Meetings without purpose don't just waste time, they drain your strategic energy. That's the stuff you need to actually think clearly, plan smart, and execute well. Every status check that offers no new information chips away at your ability to do real work. And over time, that adds up. It's death by 1,000 calendar invites. So what do? You become a meeting ninja. Here's your mini survival guide. Always ask, what is the purpose of this meeting? If no one can answer, decline. If you must attend, ask for an agenda. No agenda. No attending. Yes, I made that rhyme. Suggest async updates when possible. One Slack messaged 45-minute video call. Block focus hours in your calendar where no meetings are allowed, yes, even from yourself. Be brave enough to say, I don't think my presence is necessary for this one. It's not rude. It's smart. You're not here to fill a seat. You're here to move things forward. And if that happens better without 12 people awkwardly saying, sorry, you go first, then you're doing everyone a favor. One last story before we wrap. A friend of mine had a rule. If a meeting didn't have a decision at the end, she brought cupcakes to make it worth it. Eventually, everyone wanted to meet for the cupcakes. Productivity went down. Waistlines went up. The lesson? Cupcakes are not a substitute for purpose. But they do help soften bad news. So as we move into part 5, I want you to think about this. If everything in your day feels urgent, how do you even know what's important anymore? Because that's where we're heading next, into the land of false alarms, emergency emails, and a world where ASAP is used more casually than hello. Remember, you're not rude for protecting your time. You're strategic. And you're learning how to choose clarity over chaos, one decline meeting invite at a time. There it is again. That little red dot on your phone. The all-caps Slack message from your boss, need this ASAP. No context. No file. No explanation. Just panic. Welcome to the part of your life I like to call, the false fire drill. If you've ever felt like your entire day is a series of mini-emergencies that evaporate the second you solve them, only to be replaced by new emergencies, you're not alone. In fact, you're probably the designated fire marshal of your team. Except no one gave you a hat. Or a raise. Let's start today with a feeling you know too well, urgency addiction. That buzz you get when something's on fire. You jump into action. Adrenaline kicks in. You feel alive. Important. Wanted. But underneath it all, exhaustion. And, honestly, confusion. Most things that feel urgent, aren't. Let me paint the common event for you. You're deep in focused work. You're actually getting somewhere, writing that report, finishing that proposal, analyzing something with real strategy behind it. Then boom. Ping. Email. Can you take a quick look at this? It's urgent. So you switch tasks. Your brain does a mental somersault, shifts gears, opens a new tab, digs into the file. You send the response. 30 minutes later, silence. No reply. No follow-up. The thing you just broke your flow for wasn't urgent. It was just convenient for them to pass it to you quickly. And you just paid the price. Let's talk about what that price actually is. Every time you context switch, aka, jump from one unrelated task to another, you lose about 20 to 30 minutes of focus. That's real, measurable brain lag. And if you're switching tasks 10, 20, 30 times a day, spoiler, you're losing hours of mental clarity. But it feels like productivity. Because you're solving emergencies. You're the hero. The firefighter. The responder. I met someone who printed their entire Google Calendar, including emergency tasks, and carried it in a laminated pouch on a lanyard. When I asked why, they said, if everything's urgent, I need to see it at all times. He looked like a slightly panicked tourist at his own job. I get it. The pressure to respond immediately, to be available 24/7, is real. And our culture rewards fast replies more than thoughtful solutions. That's why emails marked urgent in all caps get answered first, even if they're about rebranding the printer room. Just because something is someone else's emergency doesn't mean it has to become yours. Oof. Did that make you wince a little? Good. That means it hit home. We're terrible at differentiating between urgent and important. Urgent means time-sensitive. Important means impact. And in the chaos of your day, you keep choosing urgent because it feels productive. It's fast. It's reactive. But it also steals your ability to build anything lasting. Imagine a chef trying to cook 5 entrees, run the register, answer the phone, and mop the floor, all while someone screams about their missing side of fries. That's you. You're the chef. And your ability to do important work is being fried in the grease of false urgency. So what do we do about it? We start by setting boundaries that prioritize clarity. You need a system that helps you spot fake emergencies like a TSA scanner for tasks. So how to begin? 1. Pause before responding. If something shows up with the word urgent, take 30 seconds. Ask. Is this truly time-sensitive? Will someone really suffer if this isn't done right now? Can I respond with, I can get to this by time? 2. Set visible expectations. Let your team know you don't jump into reactive mode unless something is genuinely time-critical. Fun fact, people often stop crying wolf when they know you check for fangs. 3. Protect your deep work blocks. Calendar them. Name them something official if needed. Strategic Ops Review sounds way more untouchable than thinking time. Trust me. People leave you alone when they think you're doing something that sounds vaguely expensive. Once you stop reacting to everything as if it's an emergency, people start respecting your time more. Why? Because you're setting the tone. You're not flailing, you're leading. Let's hit you with a weird twist before we move on. I once worked with a guy who created a red emergency light in his office, like the kind you'd see in a submarine movie. If someone came in with a task marked urgent, he'd turn it on, sound a buzzer, and make them explain the emergency in front of everyone. He said it was to discourage fake fires. It worked. People got real quiet about what was actually worth interrupting him for. Now, I'm not saying you need to install sirens at your desk. But I am saying you need a strategy. Because if you don't define urgency, someone else will, and trust me, their bar is way lower. One more story for good measure. A client once told me, I get so many urgent emails that I made a folder for them called Not Really. He checks it once a week. Turns out 90% of them were never followed up on. Not once. You know that moment when someone asks how you're doing, and without even thinking, you reply, "Oh man, I'm so busy. Just slammed. Exhausted." And they nod. And you nod. And suddenly, you're both in this weird unspoken competition about who's closer to collapsing first. Welcome to the Burnout Badge Society, membership, everyone you know. We've started treating exhaustion like an achievement. Like if you're not constantly tired, constantly stressed, and constantly juggling 6 flaming swords while replying to emails at red lights, then you must be doing something wrong. Let me tell you about a moment that slapped me across the face with this realization. I was in a meeting, yes, another one, with a group of high-performing professionals. One of them, we'll call her Dana, proudly declared, "I slept 3 hours last night. Got up at 4 a.m., ran 6 miles, finished my quarterly reports, and made gluten-free banana muffins for the whole team." Everyone clapped. Actually clapped. Like she just returned from war. Meanwhile, another guy, we'll call him Quiet Kevin, said, "I slept 8 hours, took my time with breakfast, and then tackled my top priority project." Dead silence. Awkward nods. Someone coughed. Kevin was shamed for being rested. And that's when it hit me, we've normalized suffering as proof of dedication. But let's step back. Where did this come from? We live in a culture that equates grind with greatness. If you're not hustling, grinding, pushing, maximizing, you're lazy. You're falling behind. You're not serious. So you get sucked into this loop. Say yes to everything. Stay up late. Answer Slack messages while brushing your teeth. Brag about being busy while quietly Googling chronic fatigue symptoms. I had a coworker once who wore her lack of sleep like a Fitbit badge. She'd come in, toss her coffee on the table like a prop, and say, "I only got 3 hours last night." As if expecting a standing ovation. She did this daily. Eventually, we just started clapping sarcastically. Guess what happened 2 months later? She burned out. Hard. Anxiety, depression, medical leave. Because that kind of heroism. It's a trap with glitter on top. I once met someone who installed a treadmill under their desk, in their bathroom. Why? Because they wanted to maximize their time during morning meetings. I wish I were kidding. They told me proudly, "I walk 3 miles before I even finish shampooing." It was equal parts genius and terrifying. And you? You might not be that extreme, but be honest. Have you ever bragged about how tired you are? Have you ever looked at someone who takes time off and secretly thought, "Must be nice"? Have you ever felt guilty for taking a lunch break? That's burnout culture. It's sneaky. It creeps in dressed as ambition. Here's something wild, studies have shown that people who rest more, sleep better, and don't multitask like maniacs, actually outperform those who burn out. Why? Because their brains work. Their bodies work. They make better decisions. But burnout isn't about science. It's about identity. We confuse being valuable with being busy. If you're in constant motion, surely you must matter. Surely someone will notice how hard you're trying. But here's the thing no one will tells you, no one hands out awards for most exhausted. No one throws a parade for person who skipped lunch 87 days in a row. You don't win a trophy. You just lose your joy. Let me give you something radical. Rest is part of the strategy. Yeah, I said it. You can't be creative if your brain is fried. You can't solve big problems when you're sleep deprived. You can't lead with vision if your eyelids are twitching from caffeine overload. So why do we resist rest so much? Because it feels selfish. Because it feels lazy. Because somewhere along the way, we internalize this bizarre idea that suffering equals success. Burnout is not a badge. It's a warning sign. And if you're already hearing that little voice in your head saying, "But I can't stop. If I slow down, everything will fall apart," I've got news for you. If your systems collapse when you rest, it means your systems are broken. Not you. I once met a guy, our final oddball of the day, who literally scheduled naps into his Google Calendar. Like, with alerts and emojis. He called them power alignment sessions. At first, I laughed. Then I realized, the guy was crushing it. His work was brilliant. His mood was stable. He didn't need a third coffee at 3 p.m. He was living the dream. And me? I was on my fourth espresso wondering if it was okay to cry in a parking garage. So here's what I want you to try today. Just one thing. Stop bragging about being tired. Seriously. The next time someone asks how you are, don't say, busy. Say, clear. Or, focused. Or even better, rested. It'll confuse people. In the best way. What if the real villain isn't burnout, but your addiction to multitasking? Yup. We're going there. Because it's time to stop pretending you can do everything at once and finally understand how multitasking might be quietly wrecking your brain. So until then, breathe deeply. Nap guilt-free. And if anyone tries to out-busy you this week, just smile and say, "I'm not competing anymore." Alright, multitaskers. It's your turn in the hot seat. You've probably been praised for it. Job interviews love it. Excellent multitasker sounds like a superpower, like you're some kind of task-wielding ninja who can send an email, stir spaghetti, reply to Slack, fold laundry, and hold a toddler upside down, at the same time. But today we're going to lovingly rip that myth apart. Multitasking is not a strength. It's a slow leak in your brain. Let's start with a common scene. You sit down at your desk, open your laptop, start typing up that monthly report. Ping, email. Ping, Slack message. Oh look, your phone lights up. Group chat says, "Did you guys see that viral penguin video?" So obviously, you click. 5 minutes of laughter. You return to the report. Wait, what were you even writing again? You're not lazy. You're switch tasking. And that's where your focus goes to die. Research shows that when you constantly toggle between tasks, especially ones that require different types of thinking, your brain can't keep up. It's like trying to DJ 6 different songs at once. You're not dancing, you're just creating noise. Here's a relatable common event. Ever walked into the kitchen and completely forgotten why you were there? Now imagine your whole day is like that. That's multitasking in action. I met someone once who prided himself on being the king of multitasking. He would knit while attending Zoom meetings. Like, actual knitting. With needles. He claimed it helped him focus. Which sounds cute, until the day he accidentally answered a client's question with, "Purl 2, knit 4. Confused silence. Awkward laughter. Project delayed. This is what multitasking really does, it creates microscopic chaos that adds up. A dropped detail here. A misread email there. A task you thought you finished but actually just dreamed about while eating cereal. Let's break down the science why part without making your eyes glaze over. Your brain has a finite capacity for cognitive switching. When you switch tasks, your brain has to stop, unload the old information, load the new task, and reboot. It's like switching apps on a 2009 smartphone. It works, but it's glitchy, slow, and sometimes crashes mid-thought. Every switch costs you time. Roughly 23 minutes and 15 seconds, according to some studies. That's how long it takes to get back into deep focus after an interruption. 23 minutes. That's the time it takes to bake cookies. Or walk your dog. Or watch 1.5 episodes of a show you're pretending not to binge. So now multiply that by how many times a day you check your phone. Or your inbox. Or respond to a ping. Let's say you get interrupted just 5 times an hour. That's potentially 100 minutes of lost brain function every single hour. You're working 8 hours, but your mind's only giving you maybe 3 of actual clarity. And that's why you end the day tired, but not fulfilled. Busy, but not better. Present, but not really there. You want a real-world metaphor? Multitasking is like trying to brush your teeth while eating Oreos. Technically possible. Deeply unwise. Now, let me tell you about the best multitasker I've ever met. She could answer emails, check analytics, cook a full meal, and correct her kids' math homework all at once. It looked impressive. Until one day, she realized she'd burned the rice, sent the wrong file to a client, and told her child that 8 by 7 was 49. It wasn't brilliance. It was burnout dressed as busyness. And you? You might be doing the same thing, just better dressed. So what's the alternative? Monotasking. I know. It sounds boring. Like a productivity diet. Monotasking isn't about doing less. It's about doing better. It's sitting down with one goal and letting your mind stay there. No switching. No mental ping-pong. Just you and the task. So your mini starter pack stand by. 1. Turn off notifications. Seriously. Your phone doesn't need to vibrate every time someone reacts with a thumbs up emoji. 2. Use the Pomodoro method. 25 minutes of focused work, then a break. Rinse and repeat. The break gives your brain space to recover from effort, like a gym for your prefrontal cortex. 3. Batch similar tasks. Answer all emails at once. Group your calls. Don't switch between writing and budgeting unless you want to feel like your soul is melting. 4. Silence isn't laziness. It's space. And space is where real thinking happens. Oh, and here's a fun little experiment I tried. 1 week, I wrote down every single time I switched tasks without finishing the first one. By noon on Tuesday, I'd hit 37. By Thursday, I stopped counting and started weeping into my lunch. But the awareness changed me. The next week, I turned off Slack, put my phone in another room, and did one thing at a time. Productivity doubled. Stress dropped. And I didn't burn the rice. So let's wrap this part with a soft truth. You're not failing because you can't keep up. You're failing because you're trying to do what no human brain was built to do, be everywhere at once. Your brain isn't a tabbed browser. It's a deep-sea diver. It wants to go deep, not wide. But you have to give it permission to breathe. By now, you've probably come to terms with a few uncomfortable truths. You're not lazy, you're overstimulated. You're not unproductive, you're overtasked. You're not confused, you're just standing in a room where everything is screaming for your attention. And now it's time to do something brave. Really brave. You're going to stop doing things. Welcome to the sacred, rebellious, slightly terrifying world of strategic subtraction. Because here's the truth no one tells you when they hand you that productivity planner with gold foil lettering. Real strategy isn't about doing more. It's about doing less, with precision. Let's start with the common event of the day. You've got a full to-do list. Again. You're busy, stretched thin, and somehow still adding more to the pile. You see a shiny new app that promises work-life balance in 7 swipes. You download it. Spend 90 minutes customizing it. Add it to your list of apps to check daily. Now you're juggling 14 different systems to manage your tasks. And the tasks? Still not done. That's what happens when you manage complexity with more complexity. You start building a tower of solutions that's taller than the actual problem. And eventually, something topples. So let's flip the script. Instead of asking, what else do I need to do? What can I let go of, and still win? You just need to edit your life like a good writer edits a sentence. Tighten. Trim. Eliminate fluff. Sharpen meaning. Because doing fewer things well will always beat doing 1,000 things badly. Let's talk about the subtraction mindset. If a task brings 0 return, cut it. If a meeting gives you no clarity, skip it. If a goal doesn't light you up anymore, release it. If a habit keeps you stuck, replace it. And sometimes, brace yourself, you might even need to delete tasks that feel productive but serve no real purpose. Here's a real-life story. A manager I worked with, let's call her Denise, was drowning. Emails, reports, team drama, Slack chaos. One day, she sat down, looked at her endless list, and asked herself, if I could only do 5 things this week, what would they be? She chose 5. She deleted the rest. Yes, deleted. And you know what happened? Her team improved. Her stress dropped. And no one noticed the 17 things she never did. Not one person said, hey, where's that monthly analytics deep dive on mug usage patterns? Turns out, most of the noise we respond to is self-generated. We create complexity to feel in control. But all we're really doing is giving ourselves more things to manage, track, polish, and postpone. It's like packing 10 pairs of shoes for a weekend trip. You could, but why? Let's take a look at your digital space. How many productivity apps do you have right now? How many of them do you actually use? If the number is more than 2 and less than, well, 0, you've got a problem. You don't need more tools. You need less clutter. Here's a small but powerful exercise. Open your task list right now. Pick one item that's been sitting there for more than 2 weeks. Now ask yourself. Does this move me towards something meaningful? Is it urgent and important? Or is it just haunting me like an unpaid parking ticket? If the answer isn't a clear yes, delete it. Yes, delete it. Not reschedule. Not circle back. Gone. Goodbye. Deleted with love and 0 regrets. Because mental bandwidth is like closet space. If you fill it with junk, there's no room for the good stuff. The most part people get scared of is, what if I miss something important? Okay. But what if you miss everything important because your mind is buried under the unimportant? The truth is, the real magic happens in the gaps. The space between. The silence. That's where creativity brews. That's where strategy lives. That's where clarity finally gets a chance to speak. Let me give you another micro story before we wrap. I worked with a startup founder who hit a wall. Burned out. Distracted. Overwhelmed. I asked him to list his daily tasks. There were 72. 72. I told him, cut it in half. He freaked out. Said it wasn't possible. But he did it anyway. 3 months later. Revenue up. Team morale up. Time with his family tripled. All because he stopped trying to be superhuman and started being strategic. So here's your gentle challenge for today. What will you subtract this week? It doesn't have to be huge. Cancel one recurring meeting. Delete one unused app. Say no to one low-impact request. Just start small, and let your brain breathe. So there you are. You've done the brave thing. You've cut the fat, deleted a few tasks, unsubscribed from a newsletter that thought you needed 5 productivity hacks before breakfast, and you're feeling lighter. But then it creeps back in. That whisper. That itch. Maybe I'll just add this one more thing. Just one more habit. Just one more project. Just one more platform. Just one more side hustle, because everyone else on LinkedIn apparently has 5. And just like that, you're back in the loop. The "just one more thing" trap. Let's not sugarcoat this. The addiction to more is one of the most deceptive enemies of strategy. It feels like ambition. It looks like growth. But often, it's just well-dressed avoidance. Let me tell you about Corey. Corey's an actual person I knew. Great at what he did. Smart. Driven. Had a business that was already profitable and sustainable. But Corey had what I call achievement anxiety, the fear that staying focused meant he wasn't doing enough. So what did he do? He started a podcast. Launched a new online course. Began writing a book. Tried to grow his YouTube channel. Oh, and added "learn Portuguese" to his daily goals because, quote, "it's good for the brain." The business stalled. The podcast stopped. The YouTube channel gathered digital dust. And the only Portuguese he learned was "onde está o banheiro," which wasn't very useful in a crisis meeting. And the worst part? Corey still thought he was being productive, because he kept adding things. Let's bring it back to you. You might not be launching 10 new things a week, but think about how often you say yes to just one more thing. One more email before bed. One more app that promises to optimize your morning. One more file to organize. One more tab open, just in case. I'm not judging. Okay, maybe I'm judging a little. But the point is, we all have our version of the overflow planner. That extra system. That backup app. That, just in case, task we don't want to let go of. Because adding feels like control. Even when it's really just clutter with confidence. So why do we do it? Partly because we don't trust that what we're already doing is enough. We're afraid of missing out. Afraid that focus means we're falling behind. Afraid that stillness equals laziness. And this, my friend, is where your strategy goes to die. Because the more you pile on, the less room you leave for depth. For thought. For mastery. For finishing anything, really. Starting is exciting. Continuing is where the real work happens. And finishing? That takes courage. Because when you finish something, really finish, it means you're done. You're accountable. There's nothing left to hide behind. No more tweaking. No more, just one more edit. And that kind of clarity? It's terrifying. So we delay. We start something else. We convince ourselves that multitasking is momentum. But momentum without direction is just spinning. Let me give you a real example. A creative director I worked with once had 7 branding projects in motion. All partially finished. All waiting for the magical, right time, to launch. He was proud of them, each one was clever, stylish, bursting with potential. But none of them launched. Ever. Why? Because every time one project got hard, he'd jump to another. Chase the dopamine. Avoid the discomfort of completion. He wasn't a creator, he was a starter. And eventually, people stopped taking his ideas seriously. Because they knew they'd never see the light of day. More isn't better if nothing gets done. And let's be clear, saying no to just one more thing doesn't make you lazy. It makes you dangerous, in the best way. Focused people scare the world. Because they get things done. They say no without guilt. They pick a lane and stick to it long enough to leave an impact. So here's what I want you to ask yourself right now. What, just one more thing, have I recently added that's actually just a distraction in disguise? What task, project, or obligation am I carrying only because I don't want to look like I'm not busy? Write it down. Cross it off. Delete the app. Cancel the meeting. Unsubscribe. Archive. Say no. Because if you want clarity, you have to create space. And space doesn't come from managing more, it comes from wanting less. I got a small story like this. A writer friend once told me her career changed when she moved from a list of 15 must-finish articles to just one. She taped the title of that one piece to her wall, shut down her social media, and worked on it every day for 3 weeks. She published it. It went viral. Book deal followed. She said, "The scariest thing I ever did was trust that one thing was enough." And that's what I'm asking you to do. To believe that trimming isn't failure, it's focus. You've made it this far. You've survived the to-do list tyranny, you've swum through the sea of fake urgency, and you've bravely let go of the shiny distraction labeled, "just one more thing." Now let's talk about something sneakier, something that hides in spreadsheets, analytics dashboards, and your phone's screen time report, the metrics that lie to you. Yes, today is all about data. Or, more accurately, the data you think matters, but doesn't. Let me start with a true story. I once worked with a content creator who was obsessed with follower count. Every morning, like brushing her teeth, she'd check Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, just to see the number tick up. Or worse, tick down. If she lost followers, her mood would drop like a stone. If she gained them, she'd treat it like a cosmic reward. The problem? Her actual engagement was flat. No comments. No real conversations. She had followers, but no connection. Her metric of success was visibility, not impact. And that's the mistake most people make. They measure what's easy to count, not what actually counts. Let's go through some of the false gods of productivity and success. 1. Inbox zero. It feels good. Oh, it feels amazing. Like a warm bath of competence. But is replying to 72 emails really moving your goals forward? Probably not. Unless you're in customer support, or running for mayor of your inbox. 2. Step counts. Yes, health matters. But if you're walking in circles around your living room at 11:58 p.m. just to hit your 10,000 steps. That's not fitness, it's performance anxiety in sneakers. 3. Time spent. Just because you worked 12 hours doesn't mean you worked well. A confused mind loves to equate duration with value. But some of the smartest breakthroughs come in 20 focused minutes, not a long, snack-filled, tab-hopping workday. 4. Likes and views. Oof. Social media metrics. The ultimate dopamine trap. These numbers are volatile, addictive, and often misleading. You can have a viral video and still be broke. Or have a quiet, consistent presence that builds trust, and revenue, slowly and powerfully. This is what I call metric theater. It looks impressive. It sounds analytical. But it doesn't move you forward. What results actually matter to you? And I don't mean in the way your manager talks about OKRs during the Monday meeting while everyone zones out and mutters about deliverables. I mean this. Do you want peace? More creative time? Deeper relationships? Clearer thinking? More control over your schedule? Then measure those. Start tracking metrics that are qualitative, not just quantitative. Ask yourself. Did I make progress on something meaningful today? Did I have time to think deeply about anything? Did I finish something that actually matters to my long-term goals? I once worked with a team that stopped tracking hours worked and started tracking deep work blocks, chunks of focused, uninterrupted time. Their productivity increased by 34% in 3 weeks. And no one had to send Slack messages at 11 p.m. anymore. Another team tracked questions asked instead of answers given. Why? Because the leader wanted to create a culture of curiosity, not just speed. Within a month, collaboration exploded. You see where I'm going? You can't win a game if you're playing with the wrong scoreboard. But here's the scary part, it feels really good to chase vanity metrics. You can screenshot them. You can talk about them. You can build entire identities around them. But if your life starts to look like a PowerPoint presentation, highlights only, no depth, then you're not living. You're curating. So here's what I want you to do this week. Just one shift. Pick one metric you're tracking right now that doesn't serve you. And stop tracking it. Uninstall the analytics app. Stop refreshing your follower count. Close the Fitbit dashboard if it's making you feel like a failure for walking 9,999 steps. Then pick one new metric that actually brings you closer to your values. Track that instead. You'll be amazed at how much clarity comes when you stop chasing shadows. Clarity. The elusive unicorn of modern work. We talk about it in meetings. We print it in mission statements. We slap it on Notion pages and email signatures like it's some kind of holy relic. Clarity drives action. Clarity is power. But then someone asks, so what exactly are we trying to do again? And the room goes quiet. Yeah. That kind of clarity. Let's sit with this truth for a moment. You cannot be strategic if you are not clear. Clear on your goals. Clear on your values. Clear on your why. Because without clarity, all the productivity hacks, apps, planners, and caffeine in the world are just high-speed confusion. Let's start with a common event. You're working on a project. You know the general direction, kind of. There's a deadline. Sort of. People seem busy. Definitely. But no one can really define success. So you fill in the blanks with extra effort. More hours. More polish. More features. More meetings. You deliver it. And then someone says, not quite what we wanted. Congratulations. You've just built a beautiful sandcastle, on the wrong beach. This is what life looks like without clarity. Busy. Exhausting. Vaguely disappointing. Another small story come through. I met someone who tattooed their life vision on their forearm. Literally. A full sentence in Comic Sans. It said, make meaningful things with kind people. Weird font aside, it stuck with me. Every time he got overwhelmed, he'd glance at it. He told me, if it doesn't match this, I don't do it. Was it extreme? Sure. But also, kind of brilliant. Because that's what clarity does. It gives you a filter. It helps you say yes and no with confidence, not guilt. So let's get practical. How do you find clarity? It starts by asking the uncomfortable questions. What am I really trying to build here? Who am I trying to help? What matters more than success? What does done look like for me? And once you know the answers, your decisions get sharper. You stop guessing. You stop second guessing. You just act. A client of mine once spent 6 months chasing brand clarity. She hired consultants. Bought courses. Switched platforms 3 times. Still confused. Then we sat down. One question. If you could only help one kind of person with one kind of problem, what would it be? She paused. Thought. Answered. And there it was. Her entire business, simplified in one sentence. She wrote it on a sticky note, taped it to her screen, and the chaos quieted. That's the magic of clarity. It silences noise. It shrinks doubt. It focuses the storm into a single beam of lightning. Now, let's talk about what doesn't bring clarity. Guesswork masked as hustle. Doing what everyone else is doing. Having 12 goals and no hierarchy. Saying yes out of fear. Oh, and chasing every metric you think you should care about. Yeah. That one, too. Here's another example. A team I worked with had way too many priorities. When I asked them to rank their top 3, someone said, "We have 7 number ones." That's not strategy. That's a group panic attack in disguise. So we did something radical. We wrote every goal on a whiteboard. Then for each one, asked, "Does this directly support our long-term mission?" If the answer was no, it got erased. People gasped. One guy physically flinched when we erased his pet project. But by the end, they had 3 goals. Real ones. Within a month, progress doubled. Because clarity creates movement. Not the fast, frantic kind. The kind with purpose. The kind that gets you somewhere. Let's do a little exercise. Take 60 seconds right now, yes, now. Ask yourself. What do I really want from my work life right now? Not what sounds good. Not what your boss wants. Not what looks impressive. What you want. Now write it down. 1 sentence. Short. Simple. Personal. Look at it. That's your compass. Not forever. Just for now. Let it guide your yes. Let it justify your no's. Let it protect your focus when the world tries to pull you into 73 directions at once. Here's one more story before we move on. A mentor of mine told me this when I was stuck in a rut. If you're overwhelmed, you don't need more time, you need more truth. I didn't get it at first. But he was right. Once I stopped pretending I could do everything, I realized I didn't even want most of what I was chasing. And once I got clear, things changed. My schedule shifted. My goals simplified. My brain, finally, got quiet. So here's your takeaway. Stop trying to do more. Start getting clearer. Clarity's great, isn't it? Like someone cleaned your glasses and suddenly you realize that, no, your coworker wasn't glaring at you yesterday, he just has naturally intense eyebrows. But now that you're clear, now that you've figured out what actually matters, the next question is, how do you make it stick? Because let's face it, clarity without structure is just a really inspiring post-it note. So today we talk about systems. Not the scary kind with flowcharts and 17 acronyms. I'm talking about simple, sustainable systems, designed by you, for you. Because here's the truth. Consistent systems beat heroic effort. Every time. Let's start with a common moment you've probably experienced. You wake up, determined to get your life together. You open your laptop, check your calendar, write down your goals, drink water, maybe even do 10 jumping jacks because a podcast told you to. By 11 a.m., it's all gone sideways. Someone dropped a task on your plate. A meeting went over. You checked your phone during a 5-minute break and lost 45 minutes to a video of raccoons stealing garbage. You're not weak. You're not unmotivated. You just don't have a system. You're relying on willpower. And willpower, my friend, is like your phone battery. Looks good at 9 a.m. Dead by 3:47 p.m. That's where systems come in. Now, before your eyes glaze over, let me give you today's odd detail. I knew a guy who built an actual altar to productivity. He had sticky notes like prayer flags, incense for focus vibes, and a bell he rang when he completed deep work sessions. Honestly? A little weird. But also kind of genius. Because it was his system, one he believed in. One he showed up for. One that worked. You don't need a bell or incense. But you do need structure. Let's break it down. A good system has 3 ingredients. 1. Trigger, something that starts the behavior. 2. Routine, the behavior itself. 3. Reward, something that makes your brain say, let's do this again. Sounds familiar? Yep, it's the habit loop. Except this time, you're using it for strategy, not just flossing. Let's use an example. Say your most important work happens in the morning. You want to protect that time. So your system might be: trigger, coffee cup hits the desk. Routine, open project file. 90 minutes of focused work. No Slack. No email. Reward, stretch, playlist, maybe a muffin. You've earned it. You don't have to decide each morning. You just do it. Like brushing your teeth, but with fewer cavities and more success. Your calendar tells the truth more than your intentions. You can say, writing is a priority all day. But if it's not blocked out on your calendar, it's not real. It's just wishful thinking in business casual. A coaching client of mine, let's call him Trevor, used to say, I just go with the flow. I don't like rigid schedules. Cool, I said. But when he tracked his time for 1 week, guess what? He was flowing into 3 hours of email, 2 hours of doom scrolling, and 0 hours of actual strategy. So we built him a system. Nothing crazy. Just 2 90-minute deep work blocks a day. 1 30-minute review session each Friday. No email before noon. His stress dropped. His output went up. His flow finally had direction. Because here's the thing, discipline isn't punishment. It's freedom. The right system doesn't trap you. It frees your brain to focus. It protects your priorities from everything else clawing for attention. Systems can look really boring on the outside. Like, wake up at the same time or plan tomorrow before bed. But inside, they're your scaffolding. They're what keep your goals from collapsing every time life throws you a curveball. Think of systems like armor. Not heavy, medieval armor. More like a really cozy jacket with deep pockets for your dreams. So here's what I want you to do. Take a piece of paper. Write down these questions. 1. What time of day do I do my best thinking? 2. What's one task I want to do every day, no matter what? 3. What distraction do I need to build a wall against? Now, using just those 3 answers, build your first system. Time block it. Name it. Seriously. Focus Fortress sounds cooler than Work Block 1. Protect it like it's your dog's birthday party. One final reminder. Your system doesn't have to look good on Instagram. It just has to work for you. By now, you've gotten clear. You've built your system. You've stopped chasing meaningless metrics and started saying, no, like a polite ninja. So, what's next? It's time to get ruthless. Not cruel. Not cold. Not corporate. But lovingly ruthless, with your energy, your time, and your choices. Today, we talk about essentialism, the beautiful, challenging, almost magical power of doing less, better. And I know what you're thinking. Less. I've got responsibilities. I've got goals. I've got a to-do list that could choke a bear. You don't need more hours in the day. You need fewer distractions from what truly matters. Let's start with the common moment. You're juggling 4 projects. You're in 3 group chats. You're volunteering on weekends. You've got a hobby you kind of enjoy, a second job you don't, and a dozen notifications trying to get your attention. And yet, somehow, you feel stuck. Like no matter how much you do, you're not making real progress. Because progress doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing the right things with your full attention. Essentialism. Essentialism isn't about minimalism. It's not about owning one chair and reading by candlelight while wearing linen pants. It's about focus. It's about clarity meets commitment. It's the act of constantly asking yourself, is this the most important thing I could be doing right now? If it's not, why are you doing it? To embrace essentialism, you're going to have to disappoint some people. Because when you start saying no to things that don't matter, it might ruffle some feathers. You might get side eyes from coworkers, raised eyebrows from family, pushback from your own guilt. But you're not doing this to be selfish. You're doing this to be strategic. So that when you say yes, it's a powerful, committed, full-body yes. Whenever something lands on your plate, ask. 1. Does this align with my top 1 to 2 priorities? 2. Will this still matter in 6 months? 3. Am I the only one who can do this, or can it be delegated or delayed? If the answer is no, then you already know. And yes, it's going to be awkward at first. You might feel guilty for saying no. You might worry people will think you're not a team player. Saying no now prevents regret later. Let me tell you a micro-story. A project manager I worked with, let's call her Priya, was in charge of everything. Or so it felt. Everyone relied on her. She was proud of being the go-to person. But she was also exhausted, burnt out, and falling behind on her actual job. So we tried something new. For 2 weeks, she asked one question before accepting any new task. Is this the highest value use of my time right now? If it wasn't, she politely declined, or redirected. Her team was confused. Some people grumbled. But after a month, she'd cleared her backlog, reduced her stress, and made faster decisions. Her CEO noticed. Gave her a raise. True story. Essentialism is what happens when you stop trying to do it all, and instead, do what matters most incredibly well. And it's not just about work. It's your life. Your calendar. Your relationships. Your goals. Your peace. Think about it. Why do we say yes to things we don't care about? Why do we stay in meetings we don't need to be in? Why do we agree to coffee dates we dread? Why do we keep projects alive just because we've already spent time on them? It's the sunk cost trap. We think, I've already started. I should finish. Even if finishing costs us more than we can afford. I'd rather start small and finish strong, than start everything and finish nothing. Because partial progress feels like momentum, but unfinished things drain your energy silently. One last story before we wrap. A marketing team I consulted for had a mantra taped above their whiteboard. If we can't do it well, we don't do it at all. Every time someone pitched a new campaign or event or idea, they'd ask. Can we do this well? Do we have the capacity? Is this the highest use of our team's talent? If the answer was no, they let it go. And they thrived. So what I want you to do is make your essential few list. Write down 3 things. Just 3. These are the most important things for your current season of life or work. Everything else? Optional. Nice to have. Can wait. Can go. Let's step back for a moment. You've been working hard, not just at your job, but on your life. You've been trimming the excess, identifying what matters, building systems, and saying no like a polite but strategic warrior. But here's the next level, the final twist that turns strategy from something you do into something you live. What if your work was designed to fit your life, not the other way around? Because here's the trap most people fall into. We spend years bending our personal lives around our professional obligations. We cram family dinners between meetings. We squeeze in self-care like it's a guilty pleasure. We treat sleep like a luxury and joy like a weekend-only event. But if your systems, strategy, and energy don't reflect the actual life you want to live, what are you really building? Let me start with a common moment that's quietly tragic. You wake up on a Saturday. No alarms. No pressure. And for a brief moment, you feel something wild, space. Freedom. Then, the voice creeps in. Shouldn't I be catching up on something? You open your laptop. just for a minute. Next thing you know, it's 4 p.m. You've worked half the weekend and don't even know why. That's what happens when your life serves your work, not the other way around. Now let me tell you about Alicia, a remote project manager and one of the most insightful people I've ever coached. Alicia loved her job, but her schedule was eating her alive. Meetings at 9 p.m. because of time zones. Emailing on Sundays. Skipping workouts. Burning out. Again. Then one day, she flipped the question. Instead of asking, how do I get my life to fit around work? She asked, how do I design my work around the life I actually want to live? That question changed everything. She mapped out her ideal week. Afternoons free for her kids. Mornings for creative work. One unplugged day per week. Movement every day, non-negotiable. Then she rebuilt her calendar accordingly. Not overnight. Not perfectly. But piece by piece. And guess what? The work still got done. Better, actually. Because she wasn't drained all the time. She stopped multitasking during dinner. Started sleeping. Started smiling. Which brings us to today's odd, wonderful detail. I knew a guy, let's call him Larry, who scheduled his hobbies into Google Calendar like they were investor calls. Tuesday night, wood carving. Thursday, paint by number. Saturday morning, birdwatching with binoculars so large they looked like a prop from a spy movie. Was it weird? A little. Was he fulfilled? Absolutely. And that's the point. Strategy isn't just for business plans. It's for living. You can design your day to reflect your values. You can choose work that complements your energy, rather than drains it. You can build a schedule around your well-being, your family, your passions. Not just your deliverables. Let's break this down. If you want true alignment, ask these 4 questions. 1. What does a fulfilling day actually look like to me? Not your boss. Not Instagram. You. 2. What work do I enjoy doing, and when do I do it best? 3. What drains me, even if I'm good at it? 4. What parts of my life am I always compromising for work, and should I be? That last one hits hard. Because too often, we act like it's noble to always choose work. To be the reliable one. The available one. The yes person. But you know what's noble? Protecting your life like it actually matters. Because it does. And no one else will protect it for you. Not your manager. Not your coworkers. Only you can draw those boundaries. Now let me tell you about Jared, a freelance designer. Jared used to work late every night, always chasing client revisions. Then one day he looked up and realized, he hadn't taken a real vacation in 3 years. He didn't even like most of his clients. But he was terrified to change things. So we worked on what I called his work-life refit. He raised his rates. Dropped his lowest value clients. Set a rule, no work after 6 p.m. Started taking Fridays off, every week. What happened? His income went up. His work got sharper. And for the first time in years, he felt like his life was also a win, not just the invoice. Here's the thing. Work can be a beautiful part of your life. But it should never be the whole story. Your strategy isn't complete until it includes your health, your joy, your relationships, your dreams, your peace. Let me say this clearly. A strategy that burns you out isn't a strategy. It's a trap. So here's your gentle challenge today. 1. Sketch your ideal day or week. No rules. Just what feels right. 2. Compare it to your actual calendar. Where are the big gaps? 3. Start adjusting. Gently. Purposefully. You don't need to blow up your life to get aligned. Sometimes, all it takes is moving one meeting. Saying no to one low-impact task. Taking one walk without your phone. Leaving the laptop shut after dinner. Because the moment your life and your work match, everything starts to flow. You stop feeling like you're dragging your body through your schedule. You start feeling like your schedule is carrying you. And that's what real success looks like. If you've made it this far, take a second, just one, to let that settle. Because most people don't. Most people start things, skim things, swipe through things. But you stayed. You walked the whole path. You asked the hard questions. And now, here we are. We've talked about busyness, the trap of urgency, the illusion of productivity, and the myth of multitasking. We've exposed false metrics, built systems, found clarity, designed strategy, and trimmed the excess. You've learned how to say no, how to focus on the essential, and how to build a life that doesn't just look productive, but feels right. And now you get to live it. But before we close the chapter, let's zoom out. Gently. Slowly. Like exhaling after holding your breath all day. Let's remember what this journey was really about. It wasn't about becoming more efficient for the sake of doing more. It wasn't about squeezing 30 hours of effort into a 24-hour day. And it definitely wasn't about winning some invisible race that no one actually cares about. It was about this. Making space for what matters. Letting go of what doesn't. And choosing, every day, to act with intention, rather than react with anxiety. I want you to think back to part 1. Remember that version of you? Tired. Frazzled. Staring at to-do lists like they held the secret to salvation. That person wasn't broken. That person was just overwhelmed by a system designed to keep you spinning. But now you see the map. Now you know. More tasks is not equal to more impact. Urgency is not equal to importance. Being busy is not equal to being valuable. You've learned that every time you pause before saying yes, you build muscle. Every time you delete a task that doesn't serve your goals, you reclaim space. Every time you design your day around your values, not your inbox, you become a little more you. And that's everything. It's easy to fall back into old habits. To let meetings creep in. To open just one more tab. To say yes when your body says no. But now you know better. And when you know better, you don't have to hustle harder. You just have to choose smarter. So if you're wondering where to go from here, let me offer this. Anytime you feel lost, stuck, or spinning, ask yourself one simple question. Is this moving me closer to the life I actually want? If yes, go all in. If no, pause. Reassess. Maybe let it go. Simple. Gentle. Strategic. And if you ever forget this lesson, just remember a few of the strange but true moments we've walked through together. The guy who printed every email and sorted them by urgency level. The woman with 4 planners and a 5th for tracking her planners. The productivity altar with incense and sticky notes. The bathtub Zoom meetings. The red emergency light to ward off fake fires. The guy with the birdwatching calendar and spy binoculars. Each of them was trying to find clarity in their own way. But the truth? You don't need more quirks or tools or apps. You need strategy. And strategy, my friend, starts with choosing what to care about, and what to release. So what sticks? What I hope stays with you. That you're allowed to slow down. That saying no isn't rude, it's responsible. That simplicity isn't laziness, it's brilliance. And that real success feels quiet. Like peace. Not applause. Take this moment and exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Soften your jaw. Close those 23 tabs. Put your feet flat on the ground. And if you do nothing else today, do this. Choose one thing. The most important thing. And give it your full presence. Let everything else wait. You're not just building a better system. You're building a better rhythm. One that actually fits your life. One that actually fits you. And if this video gave you something, a shift, a pause, a smile, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. But only if you really, really like what we do here. Because we're not just chasing metrics. We're building meaning. So I'll see you in the next one. Maybe a little slower. Definitely a little wiser. And absolutely more strategic. Let's slow down now, no rush, no pressure, just a soft landing. Over these past 15 parts, we've peeled back the layers of modern work life. We've exposed the traps that look like ambition but feel like anxiety. We've walked through the myth of being busy, the illusion of multitasking, the danger of chasing fake urgency, and the weight of trying to do it all. And you've learned something powerful. You've learned that strategy isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters. It's not a lack of effort holding most people back. It's a lack of clarity. A lack of systems. A lack of alignment. And now, you have all three. You've seen that real success isn't measured in notifications, or hours clocked, or tasks checked off. It's measured in peace. Progress. Focus. Joy. That quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly where you're going, and why. You've built the habits. You've faced the fears. You've let go of noise. You've created space for the right things. And more than anything, you've remembered that your work exists to serve your life, not the other way around. So let that be your compass from here on out. When things get loud, come back to the question. Does this move me closer to the life I want? That's all it takes. A little pause. A little presence. And a lot of faith in the power of less, but better. Thank you for walking this journey with me. I hope you leave not just motivated, but changed. You deserve a strategy that reflects who you are, and the courage to protect it. So take a breath. Let it land. And remember. It's not a lack of work. It's a lack of strategy. But now, you've got both.